What's good with it in the hood with it? Welcome back to the collective clips where you guys already know. Das. I'm gonna get all these topics in, right? But before we get this one in, let's get this intro in. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, please do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content that the gun think stays kicking. And I appreciate the support. I'm very humbled by it. So the disrespect continues, and it's very fucking unfortunate. And I can't sit here and say that I am not appalled, right? I am flabbergasted. I am befuddled. I am curious as to why this keeps happening, why this disrespect, this red on red, this disrespect between active Norteños continues on the internet, right? Never have I ever, right, thought I would see Norteños in good standings. I don't want to say active because that's putting too much on it, right? But Norteños that are in good standings on both sides, and see one side just continue the onslaught of disrespect towards a righteous, what they would call homie, right? Never thought I'd see it. You know, back in my days, you needed paperwork. You couldn't just make accusations. You couldn't deem someone, let alone on fucking social media, just because you don't like them or you don't agree with them or they kicked it with someone you wouldn't kick it with. You know, there's a lot of people that I know that are still in the mix that have done a lot of shady things that could get them deemed bad in the Norteño philosophies, right? But at the end of the day, who am I to expose that and express that? I would be no one. My word doesn't mean shit when it comes to the Norteños, and that's a fact. But it does mean a lot to regular people that watch and see what's going on and realize that this right here is starting to look one-sided, slanderous, and it's starting to look like bullshit. I mean, it's looked like bullshit from day one. This continuance of disrespect by the Sacramento camp of Norteños, BFD, all them guys on fucking Goldtoes is becoming just a little too much, right? I mean, let's break it down. Yes, Goldtoes did back in the days kick it with SPM, right? Yes, he did, but that was prior to SPM ever getting these charges that he's locked up for, right? Once that man was incarcerated on bad charges, everybody that should have been anybody distanced themselves from that guy, but not everyone did. Do you guys remember when Kid Frost, this is for La Raza? Do you remember when he was doing free SPM concerts and let's free that boy, man? And do you remember Baby Bash sticking next to him? And all these different rappers, they were having all these dope house, free SPM concerts, even after he caught bad charges, because their whole philosophy was he didn't do the shit, right? That's what they said. Now, I'm not on that fucking bandwagon. Not at all, never have been. That man is convicted righteously of what he did. And if he's not, my bad. Fuck you anyways. And that's just what it is, right? I distinctly remember, man, SPM going to San Jose, California, man, and the homies getting on his head. Northerners after him, not because he was a weirdo, not because he had bad charges at that time, but because his name was South Park and they thought he was representing the Sur Gang. And so the homies was on him. Okay, it took Northerners that were in good standings that were around that knew that he wasn't a Southerner to protect him and help him because the homies was trying to get his ass. That's true stories that happens as facts back in the days in San Jose. A lot of truth to that, right? That's a different story for a different video. But something happened this weekend. Something that got me saying, wow, that's how bad it is. You understand that everything you say and you do on social media impacts the younger generation, impacts people that look up to you, people that want to be in your good graces. You know, everything you say, if you're a gang member, if you're in the mix, if you're really about that life, you have to be of the understanding and use the intelligence that you're indoctrinated with to know that everything you say is going to stick somewhere. You throw shit, it's going to stick. Where it lands is where it lands. When you're disrespecting a fellow Norteño, a fellow Southsider, someone that has not been proven in bad standings, who's not a degenerate, who's not active, who's not been proven to be a poop butt, right? When you're doing that continuously and constantly, without paperwork, without a righteous a podium to stand on, the shit's going to start coming back your way. People are going to ask questions to why do you feel the need to, or why do you take the initiative to disrespect someone who has never disrespected you? Where's the hatred stem from? So usually when you have dudes like North and South that are disrespecting each other, I understand where the hatred stems from. It stems from sangre. It stems from guerra. It stems from a lot of bad intentions. Like, there's an understanding there. It's not cool. I don't believe in disrespecting someone unless you're going to get off with them face to face. You know what I'm saying? You can clown, you can cap, you can have a good time, but disrespect, putting a jacket on them, labeling them something they're not because of someone they dealt with in the past who caught a case later on and they distanced themselves from them. But it's like, oh man, he's a supporter of that guy. How do you know he's a supporter of that guy if you don't fuck with him or him? Like, how do you know? Are you there? Are you the cucaracha on the wall while he's conducting his business to know who that man supports and he doesn't? No. And I'm talking about Toes here, right? Toes has been receiving an extraordinary amount of disrespect when he has done so much for the Northern cause as far as in the music industry, right? I don't know about his business on the streets, his gang banging when he was in the mix like that. I don't know about any of that. But I've never heard Goldtoes denounce his affiliation or association with Northerners. But of course, he's not dumb enough to go out there and broadcast it, what he is, and put it in songs and represent like that, because you already know there's always a Rico around the corner. And anytime you admit to being in participation or at the benefit of a different group, then guess what? You get yourself caught up. Anyone with some real game that's laced up will understand that you just need to fall back and just do you, man. And everything behind the scenes should stay there behind the scenes. None of this disrespect between North and North has ever been put out on the internet. And it's just amazing as to the level of disrespect that's being put out there. So there was a Street Low magazine event that happened this weekend, performers on stage. And it was actually a GT Digital sponsored event, meaning that one of the sponsors was GT Digital. Of course, Goldtoes is going to sponsor things like this. He's been in the mix, especially when it's in Northern California. Car shows, car washes, all these different types of shit are going to be sponsored by different record labels, different, production groups. And Goldtoes, it was not a Goldtoes event, but he was one of the sponsors of the Street Low magazine event. And a Norteno, allegedly active Norteno, took it upon himself to get on stage and disrespect Goldtoes. Of course, that means a lot of this hatred that he's hearing on the internet, a lot of this shit is sticking. A lot of people are believing the hype. They're believing that Toes is in bad standings, or they're believing one thing or another because someone keeps constantly putting video after video, message after message, disrespecting him. Now, I've always been of the belief if you have a problem with the man, you could reach out and touch that, right? You can reach out to that man and let him know exactly why you feel the way you feel. You don't have to put it on the internet in a video for views. You don't need to. Views are cool. Money's good. All that's cool. But it's like, if it's really, truly, you have issues with that man, you can reach out to him. You can find a way. It's not hard. The Norteno cause is not that big, bro, right? You could always reach out and be like, hey, homie, here's my issue personally. You know what I'm saying? I want to handle it this way or that way. Let's figure this out. But you don't say, hey, let's fucking get in the ring with boxing gloves and charge people to watch us box because I don't like you. You don't have no interaction with that dude. You don't put that dude's name in your mouth. You don't disrespect them. You don't talk good about him. You just don't. Look, the way I was raised as a Norteno when I was active, man, and this is the facts, and this is how it is still to this day. If you don't acknowledge a degenerate, you don't acknowledge someone who's not in good standings, you don't acknowledge someone you got beef with, you just say fuck them and keep it pushing and do you. That's it. The motherfucking business is bigger than a fucking discrepancy between two people, especially when they're both in good standings. That could only cause a wreck in the future for one side or the other or both. I've seen a situation where there was red on red before in a cell. Two homies were celled up, two Nortenos, and they did not get along, right? And eventually, man, they got off. They got off where they were mad at in the cell. One of them pulled a piece, the other one pulled a piece, and they got to knife fighting in the cell. It happens. Usually knives don't get pulled, but it fucking happens, right? They were on a 4-yard 180 Corcoran prison. They said, not Corcoran prison, but a different prison. And they said, you know what, fuck it. We're going to get off where we're mad at. And guess what? Both of them got deemed. Even though one of them took flight on the other one from behind, man. But hey, no one could tell what was happening, and both of them got deemed. Neither one of them had homeboys from their neighborhood to represent them and keep it real. And guess what? They're both gone. Gone for red on red and for doing what they did. But it was more so than just putting hands on another homeboy. You know what it was? It was drawing a negative attention from the Southerners and from the whites and from all the opposition that were on that yard, because they were just laughing like, look at these two stupid asses fighting each other. And so the cause was bigger than the homies. And it always is going to be. It's what it is. You give everything you got for it, they're going to give you what you deserve. And that's it. Facts, right? I'm not a hater on the Norteno movement. Not at all, man. I can never hate what I once was, but I understand it. I'm of total understanding, man. And, you know, when you disrespect someone constantly and you're allow that to happen around you, you know, you're gonna catch the sharp end of the stick later on. I'm telling you, it's just the way it is. It's the way it's looking. You know, this continual disrespect of Toes, who, if you notice, man, has not responded, has not made videos, putting his fucking side of the story out there. None of that, because he's doing what a righteous Norteno does and does not acknowledge the bullshit. Just keeps it moving, keeps it pushing. You got to respect that. That's real, right? You know, and you would think, you know, there's a lot of things that go on in this world, man, that everyone knows about. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that happen, you know, like people pulling up to no jumps and all kinds of different things. You know, people know about certain things that are popping in the lifestyle, right? But the thing is not to put certain shit out there and disrespecting people. You know, like when Tone pulled up to Big Tone pulled up to No Jumper and who else pulled up there? Lazy Boy and all this. There was a lot of people that knew prior to that could have fucking caused chaos because Norteños were pulling up down south. There was a lot of people that knew Thumps was going to down south prior to him getting there. A lot of people that are scandalous and setup artists that, you know, could feel some type of way, but they decided, hey, that's not my business, man. Let the homies get theirs. Let them do their thing, right? You got to keep your eye on the ball, man, and understand that this is a small game that everyone's involved in, man, and people talk, you know? So when you're out there disrespecting people on the internet continuously with really no paperwork and calling them a degenerate and all, that's crazy. That's crazy work. It really is, especially from one Norteño to another. You know, it's like, I ain't never seen no shit like that before. You know, I remember, and this is the truth, man. If you guys recall, about a couple years ago, man, Southerners were going at it. You had Lefty Gunplay arguing with Swifty Blue. You had Chito Ranas arguing with Lefty Gunplay and Swifty Blue. You had all these different Southsiders that were rappers and gang members that were arguing amongst each other, the King Little G's and all these different things that happened, the Swifties, right? And there was a gang of Northerners sitting back on podcasts like the No Paperwork podcast that were laughing about it, saying, damn, look at them airing out their dirty laundry, blue on blue, all this shit. And now it's the same damn thing coming from the same damn spot, only it's red on red. I don't get it, bro. Right? I just don't get it. To me, it's foolish. Now, I'm not going to disrespect guys like BFD and Thumps and all these guys that are on the No Paperwork podcast. No, because I fully support any Norteño striving, man, for the betterment of his people and to get what he's trying to get, right? The end goal is real, and I respect it. But to have other dudes that are a part of that circle get on stage at a GT Digital sponsored event and disrespect Toes, man, that's underhanded, bro. You know, and when you start to put things out there and you're going to get other people caught up, other people in trouble, people that don't really know what's going on because you're making them choose one side or the other. Do you remember when the Norteño factions were, you had the state and the Fed split, right? And we're not going to talk about the organization. That's their business, but there was a state and a Fed split. And do you remember how the Norteños, man, I talked to a lot of them that were still active homeboys of mine, that it was a dangerous time because if you went to the state, you fell under the state's guidance. You fell under the umbrella of the state. You know what I mean? And you just did your time. And you're just a regular Northerner, Anner, right? Not even a Norteño, not even a B, not even embraced. You're just a Northerner. You're doing your fucking time. And then you catch a fucking record case. You end up going to the feds. You was getting whacked or you was getting smashed on because you were loyal to one faction or the other. And the same thing happened. I had a homeboy that went to the feds, never was locked up in prison, did YA time. You know what I'm saying? My boy got caught with dope, ends up going to the feds. You feel me? Goes to the feds, does his little 10-year piece in the feds. Of course, he's up under the umbrella. The homie's still active, still good, homeboy, still solid. Gets out, and a dude from the state side shoots him in the head because he was loyal to the one side or the other. Right? So at that time, man, the discombobulation of the Norteño business was pretty bad. It's not as bad as it was back then, right? Or at least I'm not aware of it, and I try to stay away from that politics and that bullshit, right? But now what you have is people taking it to the internet, Northerners, which is crazy, Norteños, actually seasoned, laced up, educated. Homies taking it there, disrespecting a fellow N without no paperwork, just based upon hearsay. It's wild. Anyways, like I said, there was an event at the Street Low Car Show. Rappers get on stage and everything, and someone, a Norteño, an active Norteño, decided to jump on stage and disrespect Goldtoes and, say what he said. I'm not going to repeat the words that he said. Unfortunately, it was disrespect, man. And, there's no matter what you say, what you do, you got to understand Goldtoes is a pioneer. Okay, no one can take that from him. This Black and Brown, this Thiz Latin, the 17 Reasons, the 18 with a bullet, all that. It's all him. He created an avenue and a lane for Norteños to be able to perform at street car shows and all that, right? He's one of them. He's not the only one. You had people like Sir Dino. You had people like Speedy Lokes. You had people like Woody that also played their part. They were very instrumental in the Norteños having a lane, having a stage. Whatever your personal feelings are towards a man, you address him. You don't address the internet and try to convince people, because this is the perfect example of what happens when you're spewing hatred and you're letting your own personal vendetta get out to the internet. What does it do, homie? It causes issues, right? Other dudes get on and run with that narrative. Now, I've been noticing there's a lot of dudes that feel some type of way about Toes. There's a lot of people that thinks he supports SPM. I'm here to tell you right now, from the outside looking in, that man, the only thing he's ever said when asked a question about SPM is let that man speak for himself. He's not downplayed that man, kicked him when he was down, and he's not uplifted him. He said, look, man, that man's his own man. Let him speak for himself. It is what it is, right? Has he ever sat down and really expressed how he felt about the weird charges? I'm sure he feels like a lot of us feel. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I've never talked to the man, but I will say this, and this is for facts, not for fakes, right? Most people would be in agreement that, what SPM did, whether he's guilty or not guilty or whatever this fucking weird people think, he's still convicted. And that in itself means a lot more than anything else, right? I understand that being utilized as the step to the stone of throwing rocks at Goldtoes' glass house, right? But let me tell you, homie, you can't shatter something that's moving too fast. Do you understand that Toes is doing it moving, and he's smart and he's correct in his way of thinking of not addressing these haters? But now when it's starting to get to the streets, it's starting to get grimy. You got people jumping up on GT Digital sponsored events, disrespecting the man who's actually sponsoring the event. Like, damn, the audacity. That's crazy. And that makes me believe that these Vatos really have doubled down and they really believe the shit. I don't know what's happened between this dude BFD and Toes. I don't know the backstory or the history on it, right? One thing I do know is you got one guy who continuously slanders this guy in every post he puts on Instagram and talks that shit. And you got another guy that's doing a movie, not even paying attention to it. So you ask yourself, where do you stand? Do you stand with someone who's basically self-soldiering for... And he's a solid dude. I've only heard good things about BFD, right? So I don't understand. It's like out of his character. He's way more major than that. Very talented rapper, a factor, not an actor, right? Someone who really is well respected amongst his peers could be really getting it. Imagine him and Toes working together. Money, right? But I guess they're going to do a video and say, oh, there's things that mean more to money. Yeah, there's also a thing called slander that don't mean shit. Anyways, man, no disrespect to anyone. Don't take it as disrespect. I'm just tripping out on this shit. But for those of you that need a recap, they did have an event, Street Low Car Show, man. A Norteno got up and disrespected Goldtoes in a venue that was sponsored by him. And people are going to make videos on it. And they're going to feel one way or the other. I feel like the shit's getting out of hand. And it's really looking foolish to slander and disrespect a fellow N on the internet. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. I've never seen no shit like that. Anyways, thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and strive for what I truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people. You're going to continue to do what you do, man, and you're going to continue to get what you got. Hey, one thing I learned about the Chicanos, the Mexicanos, the raza period, man, we are our own worst enemies. Any person that hurts you, any person that disrespects you, usually looks just like you. It's unfortunate. That's the way of the people. But that's tribalism. See, that was indoctrinated to us from Europeans, man. They came over from Spain and got the indigenous gente, right? Not the Aztecas, because they didn't exist back then. It was a different group, right? But they got the Mexicas and they got all these different warriors. And what they did was they turned them inside out and made them battle each other, right? And that continues to this day, even within your own group. I only do this video because I've never seen Norteños air their dirty laundry out on the internet. And now it's becoming a daily thing. And now they're even airing it out on stage. I guess that's the way they feel. This is the gun.